Hello, this is Paranormal Girl, and today I'm going to talk about fortune tellers, the background history across cultures, and the present day. Fortune telling in history. Telling someone's fortune is a practice that dates back centuries and permeates cultures all around the world. Usually, when we hear the words fortune teller, we think of a gypsy in a caravan, which is to some degree a correct image. However, fortune tellers are not of just one ethnic or cultural background. The practice of divination or fortune telling spans countries, even continents, and has even struck around today's mainstream media with horoscopes and more. Well, take a little journey with me into the past and let us learn about the various ways of fortune telling in various countries. We will learn about some of the most famous fortune tellers in history, and we will even explore fortune tellers in today's society. Are you ready to gaze into that crystal ball, my dear? The ways of the fortune tellers and their craft. Depending on the country and century we explore, there are numerous ways that fortune tellers would tell a person's fortune. Other than fortune telling, this means of asking the supernatural for answers to difficult questions, and it's also called divination. Divination means simply to predict the future, to read the divine's will, or what some refer to as the will of God. Whatever their religious beliefs, divination is a practice that knows no religious barriers or boundaries, just as it knows no cultural limitations. The way in which a fortune teller would tell a person's future varies with the culture and period in time. For instance, when you hear the words fortune teller spoken, what do you think of? Most people think of a gypsy fortune teller, a wild and gorgeous woman in a caravan of gypsies, sitting enchantingly behind a large gleaming crystal ball, or a set of cards splayed out on a velvet-covered table. This image pops up so often in our minds when hearing these words is a correct image, but does not make up the entirety of the fortune teller's history. That being said, we will be discussing the gypsies and their fortune tellers, as well as some possible unexplained fortune tellers from other parts of the world. We will also take a look at some of the various ways a fortune teller could predict the future, pull up memories from the past, and call someone's bluff in the present. Fortune tellers across cultures. Chinese fortune telling is what some people might call an art form, or better yet, a necessity in the business and financial world. Yes, you read it right. Chinese fortune tellers are consulted on a daily basis by businessmen, businesswomen, and all manner of professionals in order to gain hidden knowledge into a business decision, financial investment, etc. If you were to visit the busy cities in China, Hong Kong, or Taiwan today, you might very well see a Chinese fortune teller lining the streets with the business person sitting in front of them. This is a practice that is not new to the Chinese. In fact, it dates back many centuries to some of the oldest dynastic periods. They call it Song Min, or fate calculating. The Chinese fortune tellers are able to calculate someone's fate by many methods. Some of those methods include those that are not limited to practices such as the 4 pillars method, called Bazai, the most popular. Face reading, where the fortune teller interprets the person's facial features for answers. I Ching, Kao Sim, incense stick bamboo reading, palm reading, and of course the interpreting of the Chinese astrological calendar. These are just a few of the methods that the Chinese fortune tellers employ to gain their answers from the universe. In addition to advising business professionals in the decisions of career and finances, these Chinese fortune tellers are still sought out to aid the everyday person in matters of the heart, love, family, friendship, mood, health, etc. This is a practice that has been upheld and respected for many centuries in China and has spread to other countries in Asia. Fortune tellers can also be found on the continent of Africa in almost every village and or tribe throughout the various countries and region. The traditional African method of fortune telling is known as the casting of bones. Most of these fortune tellers have other means of making a living, which include counseling to their clientele, as well as healing by herbs and other forms of folk medicine. The casting of bones consists of the fortune teller throwing a set of animal bones, stones, sticks, pieces of fabric, shells, and any other small object and reading what the bones show. This could be a pattern, a marking on the objects, or the meaning of a particular object that are dropped. Going back to the Dark Ages and beyond, almost every country in Europe has a history of fortune tellers too. In England, they were known as the cunning folk, who not only used herbs to heal their townfolk, but also were consulted to find lost objects or to aid in decision making in business and home life. It was said that many of these cunning folk were given their abilities by the good folk, or what we might call the fairies today. But whatever their means of acquiring these talents, the cunning folk were fortune tellers in every sense of the word. Scrying was another method of divination, which meant that the fortune teller would gaze into some reflective surface, i.e. a crystal ball or a mirror, and allow a picture to show itself. This picture would give the fortune teller the answer to the question being asked. The ancient Celtic Druids were said to have read flight patterns of birds, or what is also known as augury. What about the gypsies, you say? Well, of course, the Romany gypsies also had those amongst them that could be considered fortune tellers. These were the individuals who travelled and lived in caravans with the Romany families and communities. Sometimes they were thought to have used the method of scrying with a crystal ball. But this is a common stereotype, and this is not thoroughly correct. The gypsies were also thought to have been the first to use cards as a mean of divination. This is not an all-inclusive list by any means. Fortune tellers could also be found amongst Native American tribes and in some aspect as well as in Australia, South America, the Pacific Islands, etc. Fortune tellers alive today. Being that most people today are analytical and logical, would you believe that fortune tellers are still going strong in many countries all around the world? Yes, it's true. For instance, in the United States, you can drive down a busy street and usually see a storefront shop lit up with the words psychic or palm reading or even tarot card reading here. This is because many people still believe in the idea of fortune telling. People will seek to know what lies in their future and what their future might be affected by decisions in the past and present. Believe it or not, there are fortune tellers that can be contacted online. If you go on Etsy.com, you'll find that many fortune tellers offer over the internet digital and video readings. They don't even have to see the person in order to tell you your future. How is this possible? If you ask one of them, you might get an answer something to the effect of the divine knows all and speaks through the cards, mirror, crystals, etc. While some of these fortune tellers have been known to commit fraud, there are still those who seem rather legitimate. Some of these psychics or fortune tellers have even been employed by the police in order to help solve mysterious crimes. Don't believe me? Do a little research and you'll find this to be true. Perhaps fortune-telling is not such a ridiculous pastime or career as you might have once thought. Perhaps there is some truth to this ancient practice. After all, how would something span countries and ages if it didn't ring with some kind of truth to it?